President Trump's point person on Ukraine, Ambassador Gordon Sondland, testifies there was a quid pro quo to get Ukraine to investigate the president's rivals, saying, quote, everyone was in the loop, including the Secretary of State and the Vice President.
We followed the president's orders.
Republicans press hard in response. The president even called it a fantastic day. Our political team has all the latest as two more witnesses prepare to testify.
Democrats uniting on the debate stage overnight, taking on impeachment and the president. Rising star Mayor Pete gaining momentum as frontrunner Joe Biden takes some heat.
Winter storm alert. As a record number of people prepare to travel for Thanksgiving, heavy snow and rain pounding the west and heading east. The holiday travel chaos that could affect millions.
Overnight, protests erupt over racist incidents plaguing Syracuse University. 4 students suspended, accused of verbally assaulting a black classmate.
Royal retreat. Prince Andrew's unprecedented move, asking the Queen to step back from his official duties after that interview about his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, could he be subpoenaed?
And wild airport chase. The stunning escape caught on camera. A teen jumping onto the tarmac trying to make a getaway from police.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
Good morning, America. It's great to have you with us on this very busy Thursday morning.
A very busy Thursday, a very special Thursday because it's basically a national holiday here at Good Morning America.
Going to national holiday? Why are we at work?
Why am I working again?
Taking your birthday off.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy you're here because it is a very big day again on Capitol Hill. Another day of testimony about to get underway.
Yeah, the president's former Russia advisor Fiona Hill is going to take on that narrative, false narrative. She says that it was Ukraine, not Russia, that interfered in our investigation. Of course, it comes after the man you see right there, Ambassador Gordon Sondland, with the most direct challenge yet to President Trump. He laid out how the president ordered the pressure campaign against Ukraine, a campaign that, quote, everyone, including the Secretary of State and the Vice President, knew about. Mary Bruce starts us off from the hearing room on Capitol Hill. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, Sondland's testimony here was an historic bombshell. And now this morning, investigators are preparing to question 2 more officials who have said they were shocked by what they witnessed and alarmed by the Trump administration's foreign policy. Former White House official Fiona Hill will warn of a fictional narrative that is being perpetuated about Ukraine. It caps 3 days of intense hearings here on the Hill that are sending reverberations through Washington.
Please rise.
Before Congress and the nation, President Trump's point person in Ukraine defied the president. Gordon Sondland declaring there was a quid pro quo.
Was there a quid pro quo? With regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
Sondland said they were acting on orders from the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, at the direction of the president.
Secretary Perry, Ambassador Volker, and I worked with Mr. Rudy Giuliani on Ukraine matters at the express direction of the President of the United States. We did not want to work with Mr. Giuliani. We followed the president's orders.
He said the Ukrainian president would only get a coveted meeting at the White House if he agreed to announce an investigation into the president's political rivals. Sondland said he came to believe that nearly $400 million in military aid was also conditioned on that announcement.
So, is this kind of a 2 + 2 = 4 conclusion that you reached?
Pretty much.
Is the only logical conclusion to you that, given all of these factors, that the aid was also a part of this quid pro quo?
Yep.
But Sondland said Trump never told him that directly, and Republicans pounced.
So, you really have no testimony today that ties President Trump to a scheme to withhold aid from Ukraine in exchange for these investigations?
Other than my own presumption.
Which is nothing.
The president has claimed he was trying to root out corruption in Ukraine, but Sondland said the president cared more about Ukraine announcing the investigations.
He had to announce the investigations. He didn't actually have to do them, as I understood it.
Sondland said he wasn't acting alone.
The suggestion that we were engaged in some irregular or rogue diplomacy is absolutely false. Everyone was in the loop. It was no secret.
And he named names, saying everyone from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to Vice President Mike Pence knew about the campaign to pressure Ukraine.
I'm not sure how someone could characterize something as an irregular channel when you're talking to the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Staff of the White House, the Secretary of Energy.
After nearly 7 hours, Republicans dismissed Sondland's account.
They have yet to point to a shred of evidence when it comes to impeachable offenses.
But Democrats called Sondland's testimony the most significant evidence yet.
It goes right to the heart of the issue of bribery, as well as other potential high crimes or misdemeanors.
And at a later hearing last night, another witness undercut a major Republican argument that military aid couldn't have been used as leverage because the Ukrainians didn't know that it was being withheld. Well, Laura Cooper says that Ukrainian officials started asking about the status of that aid on the same day that the president urged the Ukrainian leader to, quote, do us a favor and announce these investigations. Cecilia.
Okay, Mary Bruce, thank you. And President Trump quick to fire back. He went before the cameras at the White House reading off his handwritten notes. You can see it there in the picture. For more on this, let's head over to Terry Moran. And Terry, President calling Sondland's testimony fantastic, but privately, White House aides conceded this was not a good day for him.
It was a tough day, that's for sure, Cecilia. The White House did not know what Gordon Sondland was going to say in his testimony. No one did. And so the president was up in the residence for hours watching that testimony. And then that one moment came, the tension broke. He stepped outside of the White House and declared victory. Hours into the impeachment testimony, the president emerged from the White House and attempted to flip the script on the notion that Ambassador Sondland's testimony was damaging to him.
And I just noticed one thing, and I would say that means it's all over.
The president seized on a moment in Sondland's testimony involving a phone call between the two in September.
But I believe I just asked him an open-ended question, Mr. Chairman. What do you want from Ukraine? I keep hearing all these different ideas and theories and this and that. What do you want?
The president, reading from handwritten notes, reenacted the reply Sondland remembered that Trump gave to him.
And now, here's my response that he just gave. Ready? You have the cameras rolling? I want nothing. That's what I want from Ukraine. That's what I said. I want nothing. I said it twice.
Republicans were quick to jump on the president's messaging, putting up this sign in the hearing room. But Democrats pointed out that September phone call between Trump and Sondland came after the White House learned about the whistleblower complaint.
There's a reason why he said there was no quid pro quo. We don't have telephone calls and just kind of spew something like that out. It was because the whistleblower had come forward, the White House was aware of it, and he knew that that was what the issue was going to be.
The president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, mentioned dozens of times in Sondland's testimony and accused of orchestrating the campaign to pressure Ukraine, also fired back, tweeting Sondland is speculating based on very little contact and that he never met him. But Ambassador Sondland had said everyone was in the loop. Now, a spokesman for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said any suggestion that Pompeo knew that the military aid was being withheld to force investigations is flat out false. And Vice President Pence said to an interview it simply didn't happen. George?
Okay, Terry Moran, thanks very much. Let's get some analysis now from our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams, also our chief White House correspondent, John Carlin. And Dan, let me begin with you. Let's take a step back. After Sondland's testimony yesterday, we've had several days of public hearings, and the overwhelming weight of the testimony and the evidence leads to a pretty clear fact pattern. The president wanted Ukraine to announce political investigations. He froze their aid, wouldn't agree to a White House meeting until Ukraine announced the investigations. Directed Rudy Giuliani, Gordon Sondland, and others to get that done. But then the campaign fell apart after the whistleblower complaint was going to Congress and the aid was released. So the question now is, that's pretty much uncontested, those facts. Is that an impeachable offense?
And you're right to look at this in its totality, right? You can't just look at Gordon Sondland in a vacuum. You have to say, wait, where was his testimony supported? How did this jive with what other witnesses had testified, et cetera? And look, anything can be impeachable, right? That's up to Congress to decide. We keep talking about sort of some of the legal definitions of bribery, et cetera. Congress can decide to pursue abuse of power. It's a broad sort of overarching type of allegation that has existed in previous impeachments that I would expect would be one of the articles here. So I think the question now is not will there be articles of impeachment, but what will the articles of impeachment be? And at that point, Then it's going to be for the Senate to decide, and it doesn't seem like anything has moved much in the Senate.
And that's what I want to take to John Carl, because, John, there's another pretty clear fact pattern emerging as well, that nothing that has come out to date has shaken the partisan divide in the House in any way.
And it hasn't shaken it in the Senate, George. The bottom line is that there is no significant breaking of the ranks. You did hear a few Republican senators express some concerns about what they heard from Sondland, but absolutely no sign of any Republican senator I've seen so far suggest that what they see would warrant removing the president from office. That said, there's been a very aggressive campaign here by the White House to keep the senators on board. In fact, George, I am told that the president will be having lunch today with a group of 10 Republican senators. Among those expected to be here at the White House, dining with the president, Mitt Romney and Susan Collins, two of those moderates who would be expected to possibly break ranks if anybody would.
And Mitt Romney has been publicly critical so far. Okay, John, Carl, Dan Abrams, thanks very much. You'll both be joining our live coverage of the House impeachment hearings that start at 9 Eastern this morning. Michael?
All right, thank you, George. The impeachment showdown took center stage at last night's Democratic debate. 10 candidates facing off on a wide range of issues, from health care to foreign policy, and their experience. Lindsay Davis is in Atlanta with the big moments. Good morning, Lindsay.
Hey, good morning to you, Michael. The debate took center stage right here behind me, but this was a different one. In the past, when Joe Biden, for example, emerged as the front runner, the candidates pounced. When Elizabeth Warren emerged as the front runner, the candidates pounced. But last night, as Pete Buttigieg took to the stage with the lead, for the most part, the candidates presented a more united front. The top Democratic candidates coming together in Atlanta, agreeing on key issues and saving their fire for the president instead of each other.
We have a criminal living in the White House.
All 10 contenders united on the impeachment inquiry.
This is a president that not only with regard to his conduct with Ukraine, but every step of the way puts his own private interests, his own partisan interests, his own political interests in front of our country's interest.
In the spotlight, Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and youngest candidate in the race, leading in a recent Iowa caucus poll, facing criticism about his lack of experience.
He has said the right words, but I actually have the experience.
Buttigieg also deftly fending off a similar attack from Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
One of the foreign leaders you mentioned meeting was Bashar al-Assad. I have, in my experience, enough judgment that I would not have sat down with a murderous dictator like that.
I take the example of those leaders who have come before us, leaders like JFK, who met with Khrushchev, like Roosevelt, who met with Stalin,
like Donald Trump,
Reagan, who met.
Another standout, Senator Amy Klobuchar, lamenting the standard female candidates are held to.
Women are held to a higher standard. Otherwise, we could play a game called Name Your Favorite Woman President, which we can't do because it has all been men. And if you think a woman can't beat Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi does it every single day.
Feeling the pressure on the debate stage yet again, former Vice President Joe Biden, who celebrated his 77th birthday on the debate stage, tried to play up his support with African-American voters, but stumbled.
I come out of the black community in terms of my support. They know me. They know who I am. 3 former chairs of the Black Caucus. The only African-American woman that ever been elected to the United States Senate. A whole range of people.
No,
my point is...
that's not true. The other one is here.
I said the first African-American elected.
And another gaffe by Biden as he attempted to talk about how domestic violence is problematic. And he said, in order to change the culture, you have to keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it, all the while punching his fist in the air. The next Democratic debate next month in California. So far, only 6 of the candidates have qualified. Cecilia?
Okay, Lindsay, thank you so much. We're going to turn now to new developments in that series of racist incidents at Syracuse University. 4 students have now been suspended, accused of verbally assaulting a black classmate. While overnight, new protests erupted there on campus. Gio Benitez is there with more on this. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, Cecilia, good morning. Yeah, the students here want the university to expel anyone involved in hate speech. They also want more diversity programs. This as police and the FBI investigate all of those incidents. Overnight, protests breaking out at Syracuse University as students demand action following a string of 12 racist incidents at the school. The protests began when demonstrators stormed out of a public meeting with the university's chancellor, upset that he and other school officials are refusing to resign. On Wednesday, the school announcing the suspension of 4 students tied to one of those incidents, a verbal assault on a black student. The chancellor getting emotional at a meeting with university leadership overnight.
We just cannot let our students of color, our Jewish students, our Asian students, or any of our students or faculty and staff be afraid on this campus because of who they are.
This just a day after a popular professor received an anonymous anti-Semitic email. The professor later tweeting, "I'm not afraid to stand up for what I believe. Threats won't stop me." And just days ago, a swastika drawn in the snow.
I live like 3 blocks away from where the swastika was drawn, so it is really scary.
Among the disturbing cases that have caused uproar at the school, a white supremacist manifesto allegedly spread around campus. But now the chancellor saying that incident may actually be a hoax. Law enforcement unable to find any individual who directly received the alleged airdrop.
It concerns me to go to school with people that think that this is okay. It's disheartening.
And this morning, the chancellor's office tells ABC News he's agreed to most of the student demands, but the chancellor is not resigning. Michael?
All right, thank you so much for that, Gio. And now to the wild police chase across an airport runway that was caught on camera. The suspected teen burglar trying to escape an arrest after landing in Oklahoma. And David Curley has the story. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning. A wild chase indeed, Michael. Take a look at the United flight. It just landed in Oklahoma City on Tuesday, and a 16-year-old squeezes between the jetway and the aircraft and jumps down onto the active tarmac and starts running. Workers give chase. Authorities say that the man, the 16-year-old, was able to get into a mechanical room and into the terminal and then watch as he drops. You can see from a distance from the roof of the terminal as his pursuers arrive. His landing didn't go well. He actually broke bones in his legs, taken to the hospital. Why did this all start? Well, the teen was being brought back from Houston to face a felony burglary charge. He went to the hospital. He's in custody. He still faces the charge, guys.
Wow. Now you're arrested with broken ankles or legs.
Yeah, not good.
Not good.
Thanks to David for that. We are following a lot of other stories this morning, including that new backlash for Prince Andrew stepping away from his royal duties after his interview about Jeffrey Epstein. Will he be subpoenaed now?
And as Lizzo leads the Grammy nomination, some backlash this morning was Taylor Swift's snub. Now let's go to Rob.
Good morning, guys. Happy birthday, Michael. We had thunder and lightning in Los Angeles and San Diego yesterday, but just 90 minutes east. At the higher elevations, what a mess on the roadway up towards Big Bear. Cars sliding off the road, just about 8 inches of snow there with chains not helping. In Phoenix, they had 3/4 of an inch of rain. This is what it does in the underpasses in Phoenix. Massive flash flooding there. Had a 1/2 inch in Vegas. That's about as much as they get for a month. A lot of advisories up this morning. We have this. It's kind of a double-headed storm. The lower part is stretching out. Chicago, what a mess this morning as far as rain goes. That pushes off towards the east. And then this lower part of the system, or upper part of the system, strengthens as we go through the weekend. A lot of rain across the south, and this could bring some snow across parts of the northeast, maybe a 1/2 foot or more across parts of northern New England. Time now for your Snowy Cities, brought to you by Consumer Cellular.
If you just want a slice of pizza, you don't buy the whole pie. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why pay for more than you need? For as low as $20 a month, you can get talk, text, and data from Consumer Cellular with no contract and connections on the nation's largest wireless networks. You'll also receive award-winning support. Consumer Cellular has received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service again. Plus, AARP members get exclusive discounts. Switch to Consumer Cellular today. With our 30-day guarantee, it's completely risk-free. Call, go online, or find us at Target.
Well, finally, we cleared out, and today we're going to be starting out with some sunshine, followed by, well, increasing clouds. We'll be partly sunny by midday. Temperature at noon, 51, 54 degrees by 3 o'clock this afternoon. We'll turn mostly cloudy, though, and those clouds are going to be sticking around pretty much through the day tomorrow as we pick up some midday showers. 56 the high on Friday, 45 on Saturday. A little bit of morning sunshine, followed by more rain, this time a little heavier for the afternoon and evening on Saturday, 50 with sunshine Sunday.
Promise we'll let the birthday thing go.
No, you won't.
It's 7 o'clock, George. You can sing right now if you want.
Go ahead, sing, George. Jeff, come on.
All right, Richard, say into this phone, there's a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
Richard, you're a national hero now.
Move away from